Hey, welcome back everybody. Larry here. Welcome to Larry's Fountain Pen. Today we're going to go back to the 1950s, 1960 era when fountain pens were really hot in those years, decades ago. I'm going to bring the GT Red Pennant, Wearever Pennant fountain pen. Cartridge converter, or it can be an eyedropper if you choose to do so. The nib on this pen is a medium, and I will show you the number, the feed, the nib, and the whole layout of the pen. A little bit about the pen. Dollar pen sold from, that's what they call these pens back then. Dollar pen sold from about the 1950s through the early 1960s. And that's decades ago, like in my days. The Wearever Pennant is the cheap and nearly indestructible David Kahn Incorporated. I guess that's the gentleman that made the pens, probably, and produced and sold the pens. That's what I'm gathering. And he sold them by the bucketful, they said. The pennant would be seen typically on card racks and on the counter, on those countertops and the carousels that if you were ever back then in a drugstore, convenience store, they had those carousels. In the dime store, if any of you can relate to those were pretty cool, along with other Weaver products. Wearever products. I keep calling it Weaver for some reason. Isn't that right, Mr. Announcer?
Correct.
So, Wearever products. And advertising the pennant got the lion's share in the 1950s. The Wearever Pennant fountain pen version 1 gunmetal came out in the 1950s through the 1960s. And that one was, came out in the 1950s through the 1956, so about 6 years, and that was a lever fill fountain pen. So let's get to the pen now. Here is the Wearever GT Red Pennant. The length of this pen is 5.5 inches. Posted, it's 6 1/4 inches. And before I get talking about the outside of the pen, I want to go to the inside of the pen to show you the nib. Mr. Announcer, if you can get close enough to see the numbers on that nib. The numbers on that nib, it's 8363 US. That's what's on the nib. I thought that was pretty cool. That's how they were tracking their nibs back then, many decades ago. It's a semi-stiff nib, and it comes with a cartridge that you can refill, and nothing fancy about this pen at all. But what caught my eye and made me get into the bid war for these pens is the age of the fountain pen. This is vintage old. You know, from the 50s, like I said, to the 60s. This was a fountain pen back in those days that was a fountain pen for all the kids that went to school, folks went to work, whoever, they picked up one of these 50-cent pens and on they went. The top of the pen, I'm looking at it, on the clip has Wearever and USA on it, if you can get a close-up to try to get that in focus. That's what it looks like. It's got a silver cap, nothing much going on the finial on top, but it matches the barrel that thins out in the bottom. It unscrews, and it does post securely. And of course the nib. Now what I want to talk about is the feed. the feed is clear white. And right now it's not because I have ink in it. It's called the Seaflow Clear Feed. And what is a Seaflow Clear Feed? Well, after my investigation and doing my homework and research on this pen, I have found out the reason they call it the Seaflow Clear Feed is because it was that way. It was made that way for a reason. It will let you know you have ink in your pen still and about how much. And you can well see there's ink in the pen. Not a whole lot left, but it tells me I still have ink in my pen. So that's the information I got when I did the history on this pen. And it wasn't the easiest one to get the history as well. It took me a while to get it. So I've been writing with this pen for a while, and it writes extremely well. And here is the cartridge. It is a Wearever cartridge, and it just pulls out and pulls right back in. And the ink I will be using is Sailor Gentle, and let me clean my fingers. And you pronounce it. This one is a good one. The how do you pronounce that? Can you?
Mokusiu.
Muku, whatever. I'm not even going to try anymore to pronounce that name, but it's a Japanese ink, of course. Excellent ink, love the ink, good flow, great color. Here's a few more other inks that are kind of comparable. The Mont Blanc Lucky Orange, the Diamine Orange, and the Diamine Pumpkin in that family. Last but not least, House of the Rising Sun. They all kind of fit in that family, making the House of the Rising Sun the darkest. That gives you kind of an idea of the pen. And last but not least, let's do a few pen comparisons. Do you like my little whale I got in? I got some ink on it, but that's okay. Little bitty whale just came in today. That holds the pen right up. It's made out of glass, handmade. That's kind of cool. Midget. So, let me get ready here. There is the Wearever Pennant right there. And compared with the Pilot Metropolitan. Pretty close. And the Pilot and the Jinhao. So we got the Jinhao is probably the closest to making it the exact size, the length anyway. And this is the other Pilot. So this is give you kind of an idea what this pen compares to these other pens. But, you know, for me, it's all about what's under the hood, right? That's how I look at a pen as well. But this pen takes me back memory lane. So I bit the bullet and I did it. Alrighty. Let me get all my stuff together here. All I need is a bigger desk so I can fill it up with more stuff. Isn't that right?
Yep.
And you don't want to see my table desk, do you? No. And this again is the cartridge converter, 1950s. Try a little wetness here. Nice and wet. Really nice. This nib is really nice and smooth. Upside down. And it's a bit scratchy, but you can definitely get line variation, but I wouldn't ride it for any reason because it was made to ride just like this. Really a nice fountain pen. For me, it's all about memory lane. Can you imagine going into a drugstore or a five and dime store and look on the counter and there's a rack, or there may be a carousel on the counter, or the tall 6-foot carousel, and you see these pens, 50 cents, fountain pens. Well, 50 cents was a lot of money back then as well, but just think, just at your fingertip, just there at the store. They don't do that anymore. Now you have to order it through a pen company. Those days are gone, but at least you can keep the memory alive in here and here. If you're into vintage pens, excuse me, then this is right up your alley. Maybe not this pen, but maybe the history that I gave about this pen. And what I found that was really interesting about this pen was the feed, see flow, what it meant. Because I had no idea what it meant till I looked it up. I have another old pen that has the same kind of nib. So now I know why they were made. So I've learned something, right? Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. I know I did. I had a lot of fun doing this video because I spent a lot of man hours hunting this pen down and trying to put it all together to fit in. I'll be doing some upcoming review on other vintage pens, and I think you're going to want to stay tuned for these. I think they're going to be pretty darn interesting. I've got them right here. They came in today, finally. And I've got a couple of more from the 50s coming in. So, I would always say, I don't want to order vintage pens because I don't want to work on them. I have to buy sacks and levers. I don't want to go through all that. Then that's just more stuff I have to accumulate, and I just don't have any room. So I try to find vintage pens that I can afford, that catches my eye, that are already been either restored or they write just fine. There's no problems with the pen. But it's all about the history of the pen. You know, when they were made, who made the pens. Can you imagine in your mind the people buying these pens? What age bracket were they? What were their thoughts? What were they thinking about? How did they feel about these pens? You know, let your mind wander. Let it go. Try to go back to the days when these pens were made. That's what it's all about to me. It's not about how fancy a pen is. It's not about how much a pen costs. For me, it's about what did this pen bring back in memories for me. And even if I don't even recognize the pen, it can be from another country. Just because it was made back in the day gets my interest. Well, I hope this appealed to you in some kind of way, that it maybe grabbed a hold of you. Maybe you can feel what I feel when I actually do a vintage fountain pen, because I get into it with all my heart. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Leave your comments below. Take care. Don't text and drive. Until my next one, stay safe.